Today, you're going to discover the most monumental, epic, and profound works in the history of cinema. Films that last over 3 hours, and in some cases more than 5. Stories that encompass entire lives, whole historical periods, and that by the time they end, you're no longer the same. Today on Cine Prime. Frank Darabont took us to the very depths of the human condition with The Green Mile. Set in a southern prison in the 1930s, the story follows Paul Edgecombe, a death row guard who meets John Coffey, a prisoner with an inexplicable gift and a disarming innocence. For exactly 3 hours, the film immerses us in pain, injustice, and compassion, showing how even on death row, hope can bloom. With unforgettable performances by Tom Hanks and Michael Clarke Duncan, this work blends the harshness of reality with the supernatural and leaves the audience devastated yet transformed. Few films dare to encompass an entire lifetime, and Novecento is one of them. Over 5 hours long, it tells the history of Italy through the lives of 2 men, born on the same day, but into irreconcilable worlds. Alfredo, heir to the land, and Olmo, son of peasants. Between them grows both a friendship and a battle marked by injustice, fascism, and the blood of innocence. Bertolucci turns the screen into a monumental fresco, where the beauty of the countryside, the brutality of repression, and the hope of an unquenchable revolution coexist. With Robert De Niro and Gérard Depardieu at their finest, Novecento is not just a film. It's a colossal experience that sweeps you through history, politics, and the human soul. A journey so intense that by the end, it feels like you too have lived 100 years. One of the most ambitious films ever made.
The ring is mine.
Peter Jackson closed his trilogy with a colossal work of 3 hours and 21 minutes, and over 4 in its extended version. The Return of the King is the culmination of an unforgettable journey. The final fight against Sauron, the sacrifice of Frodo and Sam in Mordor, and the last desperate charge of the free peoples of Middle-earth. Every sequence is monumental, from the epic battle of the Pelennor Fields to the intimacy of Mount Doom. With 11 Academy Awards, this film is not only a visual spectacle, but an emotional experience about friendship, courage, and the eternal struggle between light and darkness. Watching it is to step into a universe so vast that by the end, you feel you've been part of a story that transcends generations.
God is my witness. As God is my witness, they're not going to lick me.
The word classic feels insufficient when describing Gone with the Wind. At nearly 4 hours long, this masterpiece portrays the American South before, during, and after the Civil War. Scarlett O'Hara, one of cinema's most complex protagonists, embodies ambition, survival, and the ability to reinvent oneself even in the midst of devastation. Among burning plantations and cities reduced to ashes, the story rises with a blend of romance, tragedy, and spectacle never before seen. Winner of 8 Oscars, it became the greatest phenomenon of Hollywood's golden age. It's not just a film, but a cultural monument that shaped generations and proved cinema could be as vast and powerful as history itself. Ben-Hur is cinema at its most colossal. With more than 3.5 hours of runtime, William Wyler created an epic that combines faith, vengeance, and redemption in ancient Rome. The story of Judah Ben-Hur, betrayed and condemned to the galleys, is a journey of suffering and glory that reaches its climax in the chariot race, one of the most legendary scenes of all time. Filmed with thousands of extras and on an almost impossible scale, the film set a new standard for cinematic spectacle. Winner of 11 Oscars, Ben-Hur is not just a movie, but a sacred experience where cinema becomes myth. Every minute overflows with intensity, and by the end, you understand why it remains one of the greatest films ever made.
You want the cake? Come on, you can't do that. Where's my...
The Irishman is not just another gangster film, it is Martin Scorsese's testament. 3.5 hours that feel like an entire lifetime. Frank Sheeran, played by Robert De Niro, guides us through murders, betrayals, and silences that weigh more than bullets. Al Pacino brings to life a charismatic and explosive Jimmy Hoffa, while Joe Pesci chills with an icy restraint. But what makes The Irishman monumental are not the crimes, but what comes after: loneliness, regret, and the void left by a life devoted to violence. Scorsese stares directly at death and the passage of time, delivering an elegy about the fleeting nature of power and the inevitability of decline. A heartbreaking end to a life of excess, and a direct blow to the viewer's heart. At more than 5 hours in its original version, Fanny and Alexander is Ingmar Bergman's most intimate and ambitious work. Through the eyes of two children, we witness a journey that blends family warmth with the darkness of pain and oppression. What begins as a luminous portrait of childhood becomes a nightmare when their mother marries an authoritarian bishop and the family home turns into a prison. Bergman weaves the everyday with the supernatural, the tender with the sinister, crafting a cinematic experience that encompasses all of life in its complexity. Fanny and Alexander is not just a film, it is an entire universe where love, faith, art, fear, and death coexist. A work that confirms Bergman as one of cinema's greatest explorers of the human soul. More than 3.5 hours that redefined epic cinema. Lawrence of Arabia tells the true story of Lawrence, a young British officer who, during the First World War, united the Arab tribes against the Ottoman Empire. What seems like a glorious feat becomes the portrait of a man trapped between ambition and loneliness, fascinated by power, but consumed by the desert. David Lean filmed every frame like a painting, with colossal battles, endless marches, and silences that chill the blood. With a legendary performance by Peter O'Toole and 7 Oscars, this work is not just a movie, it is a colossal experience that leaves a permanent mark and shows how far cinema can go when it strives for the impossible. Andrei Rublev is not just a film, it is a transformative experience. Over 3 hours in which Tarkovsky immerses us in medieval Russia to follow the life of the country's most famous icon painter. But far from a conventional biopic, what unfolds is a world of wars, fanaticism, and violence where art struggles to survive. Each image feels like a dream. Bells cast in misery, horses crossing desolate landscapes, silences heavier than words. In this spiritual journey, the protagonist confronts doubt, faith, and the inability to create in a broken world. Andrei Rublev is cinema as prayer, a mirror of the human condition where beauty is born from suffering. Whoever watches it does not remain the same.
Or one of the many handguns kept in the house. And when the shotgun accidentally went off,
Paul Thomas Anderson created with Magnolia one of cinema's most intense and overwhelming films. Over 3 hours following 9 characters who in a single day confront their secrets, guilt, and desires. From a misogynistic guru played by Tom Cruise, to a lonely policeman, a child prodigy exploited, and an old man on his deathbed, all the stories intertwine in a torrent of emotions on the verge of exploding. Magnolia is a brutal portrait of human fragility, where chance and redemption coexist in every scene. With overwhelming staging, masterful direction, piercing dialogue, and unforgettable moments, this work is an emotional roller coaster that proves cinema can be as chaotic, painful, and beautiful as life itself. Barry Lyndon may be the most beautiful film ever made. With obsessively perfect direction and staging, Stanley Kubrick turned every frame into a living painting, lit only by natural light and candles, creating images that seem taken straight from a museum. The story follows Redmond Barry, an ambitious young Irishman seeking to climb the rigid social ladder of 18th century Europe. His journey, full of wars, deceptions, conquests, and downfalls, portrays the rise and fall of a man who had it all and lost it all. But beyond its plot, Barry Lyndon is a meditation on time, ambition, and the fragility of human life. A hypnotic, cold, and sublime masterpiece that confirms Kubrick as the greatest director in history. Akira Kurosawa filmed one of cinema's greatest epics. Seven Samurai tells how a small farming village, tormented by bandits, hires a group of warriors to defend them. What could have been a simple tale becomes a lesson in honor, sacrifice, and humanity. Each samurai has a unique personality. Every battle is choreographed with masterful rhythm, and every silence carries immense emotional weight. Kurosawa blends explosive action with moments of tenderness and tragedy, creating a story that inspired generations of filmmakers. Seven Samurai is not just an action film. It is a monument to collective spirit and the dignity of those who fight even knowing they may lose everything.
Give me a moment. Just let you drink here inside.
No film has shown the horror of the Holocaust with such rawness as Schindler's List. Steven Spielberg tells the true story of Oskar Schindler, a German businessman who went from exploiting the war to saving more than 1,000 Jewish lives. Shot in harrowing black and white, the film combines scenes of unbearable brutality with moments of luminous humanity. Liam Neeson, Ben Kingsley, and Ralph Fiennes deliver unforgettable performances that elevate each sequence to living history. Beyond its technical perfection, this work is an eternal reminder of the depths of horror and how a single individual can make a difference. Schindler's List is not just cinema, it is a moral and emotional experience that leaves an indelible mark. Sergio Leone left his cinematic testament with Once Upon a Time in America, a nearly 4-hour epic that is pure, eternal cinema. The story of Noodles and Max, two friends who rise from the streets of New York into organized crime, is also the story of ambition, betrayal, and the passage of time. Robert De Niro embodies a man tormented by guilt and memory, in a narrative that shifts between present and past with devastating melancholy. Leone portrays friendship and betrayal as wounds that never heal, with grandiose staging full of silences, glances, and atmospheres suspended in eternity. Ennio Morricone's unforgettable score turns every scene into pure poetry. Once Upon a Time in America is the ultimate portrait of nostalgia, a shattered mirror in which we all recognize ourselves. Before reaching the top one, I must mention some films that could have made the list, but missed the 3-hour mark by just a few minutes. Heat by Michael Mann, the definitive showdown between Al Pacino and Robert De Niro, in the most intense thriller of the 90s. In Casino, Scorsese portrayed the fall of Las Vegas's empire with violence, luxury, and an immortal Sharon Stone. The Wolf of Wall Street, an avalanche of excess, sex, and money that turned Leonardo DiCaprio into a modern myth. Braveheart, Mel Gibson's cry for freedom, remains one of cinema's most epic moments. And Tess, a truly underrated gem, the most beautiful tragedy ever put on screen, with Nastassja Kinski in a state of grace. Yes, the greatest film in history runs for over 3 hours. The Godfather Part 2 is the absolute pinnacle of cinema. Francis Ford Coppola expanded the universe of the Corleones in a monumental work that alternates between two stories. The rise of young Vito Corleone, masterfully played by Robert De Niro, and the transformation of Michael into a cold, ruthless leader under the skin of Al Pacino. Every frame is perfect. Every line of dialogue is history. Every silence weighs like a sentence. This film is not just about the mafia. It is about power, loneliness, and the corruption of the soul. With 11 nominations and 6 Oscars, The Godfather Part 2 is not only the best film over 3 hours, but the best film in history.